Hello, and welcome to Roasting the World, where we offer an adversarial perspective on today's cultural issues. We do it for the intelligent culture. Introducing our hosts,
Dance Ray.
Dancer Ray and
L.A. Fisher.
L.A. Fisher, and I'm Keenan Robinson. Today's issue that we will be roasting is parenting. So, there's a lot of ways to parenting. All of us are parents up here, and one of the things that we find are some of the obstacles of parenting would be co-parenting if you happen to have a kid out of wedlock, or child support for a lot of our male and female counterparts, and visitation rights. So, and at the end of our set, each person will have a roast or toast, whether you want to roast or toast the topic. So, starting off as a single parent, I feel like that it is a little difficult to co-parent when you have a child out of town. My daughter lived out of town for quite some time, and it was pretty difficult because I'm the one that was responsible for going back and forth, driving, providing the financials for everything, and it kind of was rewarding because my daughter understood what I was doing because she was a little older, but it sucked because, it's on me, and I didn't make the decision for them to move. So, that was my issue. Either one of you guys want to chime in?
I think distance can definitely make that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, my children's fathers live within the town, but if there was a distance between the two, it would definitely complicate some things.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
As you're trying to grow up to be a man, that people understand that the difficulty comes in losing the power over your children even.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a major stab to everything. Even being in the same city, I've had moments where my son's mama made it difficult for me to pick him up and spend time with him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say they made it difficult, now I had to go to court. I've been to court probably 7 times throughout the course of my daughter's life. She's 20 now, so we're done with that, and I'm done with child support and all that kind of stuff. But my experience left me a little jaded, so to speak. So can you speak about any court situations that maybe either one of you have gone through?
All right, so I went to court as well, which is an expense that was not in my budget as a person that went into college at 17 years old, and then had over $40,000 of debt at the age of 19. Then I have a child, and now I have to pay for a lawyer who's like a $1,500 retainer to even take your case, so you can even get rights to see your child. That's a big weight to bear for somebody who's trying to be a young man and responsible, and it's a deterrent. And even aside, if you don't pay for the lawyer, you still get hit with child support.
And what do you mean by deterrent? Deterrent to what? To seeing your kid? I mean, because I had distance and I still...
To happily be engaged in the process of being a parent.
Okay. Because it's hard to parent over the phone. Right?
Yeah, it's
hard
easier
to
now with the
parent.
videos, but...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because So let's kind of move off of just that particular part. Can you tell me the pros and cons for just being a parent in general versus, because a lot of people, especially our generation, what, X or Y, the generation that's coming up now, are having kids way later or not having kids at all. For me, it was a blessing for me to have my kid because I was doing all the wrong things. But once I had my kid, I could focus on something outside of myself. Can you guys speak to, and maybe Dance Ray, you can speak to having to focus on something outside of just you?
I think that having kids changes you in that way specifically because it gives you nice reminders every day that it's bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's not even about you at all anymore after you have kids, because most of the time, I mean, not every situation, but a lot of times you feel like, okay, I've lived a little bit of life. I have children now, and I've done a few of the things that I really wanted to do. There's more, but for the most part, there's a part of your heart that goes out to the child that's just like, I'd be happy if it was more about you than me. Right. So I think it changes you in those ways and changes your perspective, your goals. Right. It makes you realize how much time you waste when you could be doing other things.
Right.
It makes you realize a lot of different things that you could assess and change about your own life. For a lot of people, some people don't really have that experience as well.
Right.
Especially if you are in a situation where you're detached from the situation for some reason, whether it's baby mama's tripping, baby daddy's difficult, and you don't get to have that bond.
Right.
I think it can make you a little more detached and, not necessarily feel like your life is all about the child, but you do have to keep a balance with the distance or without the distance, because they're still your child. They're still going to remember the ways that you were there for them unselfishly when they get older.
Right. Marv, you want to chime in on anything on this?
Yeah. Repreface it again, though.
Well, what we're saying is,
because there's so much that I wanted to comment on.
Right.
But I needed notepads. So
right.
I could be like, oh, yeah,
right.
Yeah, let me hit that.
Well, basically, how does having a child change your life from being a self-centered type of person, because you only have to worry about self, to now you have this other life that depends on you, despite, because my situation was, despite the fact that I had this woman that had my child, I had to have a specific separate relationship with my kid, because me and the young lady didn't work out. So I had to make sure that I pushed for me and my daughter to have our own separate relationship in order to be successful at parenting. So does that help you with the preference?
So interestingly, I've had the full spectrum.
Okay.
I've been had a kid out of wedlock, had a kid in marriage, and now I'm a single father.
Right.
So the full having a baby mama, having a wife, having an ex-wife, having a relationship with the kids outside, and building a relationship with
It's the hat, person. Man. It's the hat. I think it's the hat.
What's the hat?
That's how you got all of that stuff.
No, the hat came after.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's the reason he put the hat on.
Right.
This is me riding off into the sunset. So, I mean, so even after the separation, like there was a time where there was distance with me and my kids, and I guess I needed to just heal and take care of some things while they were older. And now my kids are kind of older, so.
Right. So how do you close that distance? Like you mentioned distance, and like even if they're in the same city with you, but just not the space distance, but the emotional distance that comes with the kid living outside of your home.
So the coolest thing about being a parent for me was that I've always structured things that I've bought them, items that I've done with them, to do with them. Certain hobbies I've done with my children.
Right.
So even in my absence, I've seen my oldest son still create music.
Okay.
Without me in my studio. Like
Right. Right.
Like I'm proud of my kids. My other son, he's still doing music. Right. Regardless if I'm there. Like I've planted the seeds in my children.
Okay.
So much so that they still want to. Like my daughter sent me a message, just like, Dad, I live to make you proud.
Yeah.
Right.
And super proud of my little girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Nails by Nithya.
Right. Well, it's a shameless plug. Yeah. Nails by Nithya.
And I think when there's a distance between you and your children, for whatever reasons, there are times that I'm just really grateful for technology.
Right.
I mean, you can FaceTime anytime. You can Snapchat. I'm following all my kids on every platform they're on. I know everything.
Right.
And I will DM you.
Right.
As a mother and a friend, I think it allows for creativity, when you have spaces between you, just to keep the bond, and kind of like what Marvin said, he's planted seeds and instilled things in him and the children that are going to grow while he's not present.
Right.
And every time they do those things, they're going to think about their dad.
Right.
I think about the things
Right.
that my parents taught me, and even with my dad being passed on, there are things that I do that he taught me, but it's like we're doing it together still,
Right.
because that's what he put in me. So it's a bond still there. It lasts.
Even in the little things, an example. So my dad used to bowl, still has his bowling ball from 30 years ago. My brother, me, my sons, like he took on bowling too, so it become a pastime. So even though my dad is injured and can't physically bowl anymore,
Right.
when he used to miss a shot, he used to do this little thing. So now he did it, I do it, and then my son do it as a
Right.
as a like.
It's a thing.
You know, that reminds me of my uncle that raised me. He had an incident where he blew up a can or something, and his finger was stuck like this. Right? I'm serious. It was stuck straight
That's
out.
not funny. I should have laughed.
No.
That was
So-
an example.
Right.
I was thinking Matumbo.
I got questions. Like,
So when he would pick up something, he would always be like this. So sometimes I find myself grabbing things and having my finger out subconsciously, not because I want to do it, but because I always saw him. That was my male role model for most of my life. So I'm like, why is my finger out? There's nothing wrong with my finger, but I saw him do it, so I felt like that's how you were supposed to do it. I noticed with my son.
Trendsetter.
Right.
Just like the pinky
I
up.
was with my son one day and we were watching something and I laughed like, ha, ha, ha. He looked at me dead in my face. Nothing was funny to him because he didn't even understand it was an adult joke. And he said, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, this little dude is watching everything that I do. Even the small things that I really don't think that he's paying attention to, he's watching everything that you do. Kids, and as an educator, I noticed that my students are also watching everything that I do, my mannerisms, how I talk, how I say things. So you have to be on point as a parent and as a role model, even if you're not there, like just some of the things that you say. And I look at even when you're co-parenting, having those tough discussions with the counterpart. Are you guys yelling? Are you screaming? Are you cussing? Are you being disrespectful in front of your kids? Or do you say things to your children concerning those issues? Or do you keep that to yourself? Because those things also affect the way that the other parent is able to interact with the child. And also, I will say this as a disclaimer. As kids get older, they get to see who you really are. Mm-hmm. So if your whole life your mom or dad has been like, they ain't nothing, they suck, they whatever. As they get older and you don't fit that mold that was set upon them, they get to see the real you and what's really going on. Mm-hmm. So I think, with age comes knowledge for children also. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
So we are down to our last few minutes to our roast time. Mm-hmm. So Marvin and Danteray, L.A. Fisher, you guys have earned 1 minute of roast time. So I'm going to start with Marvin, L.A. Fisher. Give us your take on the topic and any closing remarks that you would have to our parents out there that are dealing with parenting, co-parenting, child support, separation, or any of those type of things to either toast or roast.
All right, so ultimately child support is something you can't dodge. If you have a social security number, they own you. So you got to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Might as well just stay ahead of the game on that, or at least on time. No reason to get behind because it's just stress on your mind. So do what you got to do to get that done so you don't get locked up, lose your license, and you can stay free-ish out here.
Right.
Ultimately, there are things that you can bicker with somebody that you created a child with. But if you passed away, did that conversation, did that subject really matter in the whole scope of what's being embedded in your child or the foundation around them? And the answer is probably going to be no to that.
Right.
So it's really recognize that you are too blessed to be stressed, and the more love that you give into your child, that energy is what they recognize and will draw towards, regardless of what anyone says. Because I know a flaw of mine was hating my baby mama saying bad stuff about me, negative, like wrong stuff. You don't treat him the same as you do your other kids. That's a false narrative. Like, I didn't want that to be repeated. That used to make me upset. Mm-hmm. I understand why Eminem said I am whatever you say I am, because ultimately nothing I said ever convinced her to stop saying that. Mm-hmm. But now that my son's 17, he sees the difference. Like, he knows he calls his daddy when he's super in trouble. Dad, look, I'm going to be honest with you. That's what happened.
Right. And you want to have that kind of relationship with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And Danteray, you have your roast or your toast time.
Man, I toast.
Oh, you toast? Okay. He toast.
Okay. Well, I toast at all things we discussed as well. Good parenting is going to be the foundation for our future. You know, the kids are the future. We should not be looking to ourselves the majority of the time. We should be looking to what's best for the child, because that's what it's going to be. These are the children who are going to be someday looking after us.
Right.
And having major epiphanies about what life means in general, and looking back over the years, experiences they've had with you as a parent, with other people. And one day they're going to be trying to put it all together, and they're going to have a narrative of whether you're someone that they want to be like or someone that they don't really want to be like. And so we just should all strive to be better for our children, so that they can be better for their children, and so on and so forth. So I toast to great parenting, because that's really the only way out of some of the situations we might find ourselves in with the youth just going wild.
They're going to stick you in a nursing home if you don't treat
and
them right.
And not change your diaper.
That's going to be
I'm terrible. Just saying. I'm just saying. Like,
Well, until the next time, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Right.
And we will see you next time for another exciting episode of Roasting the World.